Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to pursue a three-quarter view drawing from an artist named Albrecht Durer. Albrecht Durer was a Renaissance artist from the north. He was from more of Germania than he was from Italy. And his portraiture looks a little bit different than some of the other portraits that we've looked at. But we're going to pursue this drawing that looks like this. It is called Head of a Black. And a lot of times when people look at this drawing, they think that this man was from America, maybe early America, maybe from slave days or sometime like that. But that's not true. If you look at the date up here, the date is 1508. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. This was from 1508. This is only a couple years after Columbus sailed. America was not a nation at that time at all. And this was taken in Europe somewhere, probably in Germany, where Albrecht Durer lived. So what we're looking at here is called the Head of a Black. I really like this portrait. I love drawing this portrait with my students because this man has a very noble look about him, and Albrecht Durer draws him with such dignity and grace that it's really something to behold. And we'll see that as we get going with it. The first thing that I would like you to see with this is if you can download this, this document from Google Classroom would be so helpful. If you are drawing with us and not in this class, you can just take a sheet of paper and draw along with us too. What I'm going to do with this, first of all, is I'm going to just set some parameters. All right, so at the top here, where the top of this drawing comes across, I'm just going to lightly draw a line across here. And where the bottom of the drawing comes across, I'm going to lightly put a line across here. You could use a ruler if you want to. It's not necessarily necessary. I'm going to see how wide this drawing is, and if you look at it, you're just going to have a very thin margin. I'm going to turn this sideways on either side. So I'm going to put about 1/4 of an inch margin between the two drawings and about 1/4 of an inch margin on the side. You could measure it, but it's okay just to eyeball it also. So that gives me some parameters as to what I'm dealing with. So I'm going to do my drawing in this right in this area. I'm also going to draw it the same size, so that's going to help an awful lot too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for some of these big shapes first, some of the big shapes of the face that we looked at last time, and some of the big shapes of the neck and the shoulders. So those are important things. I'm also going to use different steps in drawing this portrait. I'm going to pick up a handout right here. We're going to be doing this in steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3. You can see the red lines here for measurement. Step 4, the big green triangle, and then here's the last finished drawing. So I'm going to be following along with these steps. They are also in Google Classroom if you want to take a look. Okay, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the top here. Let me see if I can get this squared up just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so I'm going to square this up. Make some marks here to help. So right here at the top of his head, his hair is going to come out pretty much at the top of his head. I'm going to put a line across because I like to put a line at the top. So that's going to come right across through here. You can see that following. I'm going to put a line at the bottom of the chin here. You can see where his chin is going to come across. You can also double check by measuring from the bottom. I'm going to measure from the bottom over here just to make sure that that line is straight across. And it is. I'm going to measure from the top and make sure that line is straight across. And it is. So those look good. Okay. Now, Once I have a line at the top where the top of his head is going to go, I'm just going to start to put in a little bit of the curve of the head right there. Now I'm going to draw this just a little bit differently from the 3/4 view blank that we did before. I'm going to come down here, and this is where his chin is going to be. I'm going to measure over from the outside of the face about how far that chin should come back. Notice I'm using my thumb here to measure to the chin from the edge of the page. So I'm going to go from the edge of the page here. I'm going to measure that one more time just to make sure. Okay, so right about there is where his chin is going to go. There's the bottom of the chin right there. So I'm just going to start to put in some of these big shapes. In the back of the head, I can see that his head's going to come in about this far right here. So I'm going to put in the back of the head like that. I can see that this jawline is going to kind of come up at an angle here. The back of his head's going to come in like this. So I'm going to put this big curve in here, kind of where his jawline comes, where the back of his head comes. Now we drew a 3/4 view blank last time. Actually a little bit bigger than this one because this one's going to have the shoulders in it too. The front of his face, his cheek, I can measure out about where that's going to go. And this gives me a chance to put in some of these big shapes. Notice his chin doesn't go down to the bottom of the page here. It only comes down, approximately halfway, not quite halfway. Actually, half is more like about his mouth area is about the halfway point. Okay. From his chin here, I'm going to come back in, and here's going to be the beginning of his neck. And if I look over here, the back of his neck is going to come up a little bit behind his jaw, kind of where his ear is going to go there. And you could measure how far back that neck is going to go. Whenever you're drawing something that's the same size, you can use this comparative measure. Comparative measure is a tool that artists use all the time. It's very, very, very helpful. So in the back here, you see quite a bit of the back of his neck. Now, if this is where his chin comes, and again, we measured from the chin from the bottom of the drawing here, and you can double check that again if you're not sure. If you look, you can see that his cloak right here comes just a little bit down south of the chin. See how there's just a very little in that negative space right there. There's just a very, very little bit. There's not an inch or anything. It's just a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch right there. And then you can see how his shoulder is going to come down, something like this. You can measure down how far the shoulder comes from the bottom of the page, and you can see that shoulder is going to come across right there. I'm drawing very lightly right now because I don't want to do anything too dark. Let me measure how far that neck comes over. Yeah, see, my neck needs to come over this way a little bit more. Let's make that a little wider. I just double checked that. The neck needs to come over a little bit more. There we go. Now, on this side, you just see very, very little bit of the neck compared to the shoulder. If you would take a line straight across here, you would see that the opening for his cloak looks like kind of a foreshortened circle here. You see that? See how it foreshortens? This is going to come around behind, and it's going to gather up on the other side. So if you kind of draw this little very light line right there, you're going to see that this is going to come around here in a bit of a foreshortened curve, like that. Comes around there. I have you looking at the whole thing right now. I could take it in just a little bit, I guess. I have you looking at the whole thing so that you can see how I'm setting this up. Sorry, I just hit my microphone. Forgot it was there. I am not an experienced YouTube designer. I'm just an art teacher trying to figure out how to get lessons to my students during this COVID time. So I'm just learning, but I love doing the drawings. Okay, from here, this line is going to come all the way across. If you draw a line straight down from the neck, it comes in front of that a little bit. So this is going to come all the way down over to here. And you can check the width of that if you would like. Then you can see that in the back, his shoulder, it comes up, see about this far right here. I'm measuring it with my pencil. I'm going to come down from the corner. It's going to come up about this far. So this is all the jigsaw puzzle pieces that I'm putting in here. I'll finish these lines better later. Do one more in here. You see that this line kind of sways over like that. And then his neck is going to come around a foreshortened circle like this. So it all fits together right there. Let's take this line out now. That was the line for his chin that we started with. So as we're setting this all up, it's really important to get these big shapes all in the right spots. I'm going to check the back of the neck again. That looks pretty good. The back of his hair is going to come back here. Okay, the front of his face, he's looking back, he's looking up just very slightly. So I'm going to take a little bit off of his forehead here. He's looking up just very, very slightly. Okay. Now, these are the lines that I was looking at here, trying to get all these big lines in place, just this little space here. The next couple things I would like to do is I would like to put in this line right here that comes back. And it's going to go right to the edge of his nose. Let's look at that, right to the edge of his nose. So what I'd like to do is very lightly, you have to kind of eyeball this a little bit. This is going to be the 3/4 part. Now before, last time we drew a line straight down like this, and then we drew a line over here like this. I could put that very lightly here. That kind of comes right down through the middle of his face. But this line here is going to be the eye, the line between the eyes, where his nose is going to set up. You can see that it comes over like that. Okay, so that's this line right here. It kind of comes to the edge of his nose, comes through his nose. We've already added out to his chin a little bit, so that's already taken care of. This line right here is a really important line in this drawing. Very, very important line. Okay. So that was all part 1, or the first section 1. Now we're going to go to 2. Now when you look at the second part of this, like step 2, I can see that the eye level line is going to be at an angle. So he's looking up just a little bit. So the eye level line is going to be at an angle. And then we're going to look for this little shape right over here. Now, where does this eye level line go? Well, if we would go and look right between his eyes, and you measure down to his bottom of his chin, you're going to find out that if you go right between his eyes, and then you draw a line straight over to the top of his head, his eyes are just slightly, very, very slightly above halfway, partly because his beard is down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly, right here, kind of estimate where the halfway mark is, and go up just a touch from there. Since this is an angle, it's kind of hard to draw a line straight across from it. But I'm going to measure again from the chin to the eyes equals the eyes to the top of the head. And his hair is going to come up back here just a little bit. So that's pretty close right there. And you can see how lightly I'm drawing, very, very lightly. I'm not drawing dark at all. Okay. So the other thing I see on here is the eye level line is going to come down into the ear. The top of the eyebrows will be to the top of the eye. But right back here, 3 of these parts are going to meet. All right, where this neck comes up, the back of the head comes in here, and just the edge of the ear should be right about there. So I'm just going to suggest that ear right there right now. The ear, the back of the head and the neck all meet right there. Okay. So now what I really want to look at is this little space right in here. This space in here that shows the this little negative shape right there. I think I'm going to go like this. I think I'll put it like that on this one. And let's make this a little bit bigger now. Okay. So what I'm looking at, what am I looking at? That's a good question. There, that's a little better. So what I'm looking at here is the space between the nose and the side of his face, his cheek. And I said, bring this line back in a little bit. So I'm going to, on this one, since I said to take this line about to the edge of his nose, I'm going to take this notch. Now, he doesn't have a notch that's super angular here. He's got more of a swooping line right here. And you can see where his eyebrow is going to come in there. If you wanted to, you could draw a line across from the other eyebrow to get an idea where that's going to go, which I just did. This one should line up the same because it's the same exact drawing. So here's his eyebrow, and I'm going to look for this little shape right here. This little shape is going to come across like this. Let's straighten this out a little bit. See? It comes across like this, and then his nose is going to come forwards. His nose doesn't quite touch his cheek. So it's going to turn. You can check where the bottom of the nose is going to go. That would be good. You can check where the mouth is going to go. That would be good by drawing lines straight across. With yours, it's going to look more like this. Let me go back. Okay. With yours, what you can do is looking here, like with the nose, you draw a line straight across. This nose is going to come to about there. So I'm going to round this a little bit more. Let's just stay big. I'm going to round this a little bit more. So this shape right here, this shape is probably the most important shape in the whole drawing to get right. Because if you can get this shape right, everything else falls into place. So this is going to come around, it's going to come up, and it's going to come down like this. Let me fix this a little bit. That looks better. The mouth. His mouth is a little bit at an angle, but you can kind of get an idea where that's going to go. His mouth is going to come in here a little bit at an angle. His lower lip is going to come to here. His chin, I'm just putting a couple little marks there for those places. Take his nose out a little bit here. All right, so you can see from here at the eye level line, on the outside, that's where that eye socket dips in a little bit right here. And then it's going to come out for his eyebrow. Right there like that. His cheek is going to go out. and then it's going to come down, and there's a little bit of room right there between his cheek and the nose. There's just a little bit of room right there. You see right here, there's a little bit of room right there. And this is going to come in. And then I'm going to do a straight line down, and I'm going to wrap this up right about here because we're at 20 minutes. I'm going to do a straight line down from his cheek once you get his cheek in there. And you can see if you go a straight line down from his cheek, you're going to run into his mustache, and you're going to run into his beard right there, straight down. So I'm going to go from his cheek here. I'm going to do a line straight down. And then next time, when I go to build these into place, I can see I'm going to need to take his chin out, at least the hairs of his chin out just a little bit according to his cheek right there. All right, so I'm going to stop at that point. This is part 1 of the 3/4 view drawing by Albrecht Durer called Head of a Black, and I will see you for part 2. This is all of the big features. It takes a long time to set these up, and you have to spend a lot of time doing that. It's very, very important to get that set up correctly. All right, thanks for drawing. We'll see you in the next video.